and they reflect the growing strength of our business. The group has been operating cash generative so far in 2023, and our liquidity balance was $28.9 billion as at the 30th of June 2023. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Hong Kong SAR government and our shareholders for their continued support during and after the pandemic, in particular for the role they played in our recapitalization in 2020. Having already brought our preference share dividend payments up to date, we are pleased to announce that we plan to buy back 50%, that's $9.75 billion, of the preference shares held by the Hong Kong SAR government before the end of 2023, and to buy back the remaining 50% by the end of July 2024. As outlined in the National 14th Five-Year Plan, the Hong Kong International Aviation Hub has an important role to play in the overall development of the country. Through the connectivity it provides, the hub supports and facilitates the overall development of Hong Kong. And we're committed to continue to play a key role connecting Hong Kong, the Greater Bay Area, and the Chinese mainland with the world. As a group comprising Cathay Pacific and HK Express, we are now close to 60% of pre-pandemic passenger flight capacity levels. We're on track to achieve our target of 70%, covering 80 destinations by the end of this year, and we're confident of reaching 100% by the end of 2024. Secondly, I would also like to express our sincere gratitude to our customers who have been supporting Cathay over so many years. Whilst we're pleased to be back in the top 10 of the world's best airlines in renowned industry rankings, the aviation industry continues to experience challenges which have hindered our ability to deliver the highest service levels that our customers expect. Our commitment to investing in Cathay to provide a better experience for our customers remains absolute. We are delighted to have announced earlier today our intention to purchase up to 32 additional single-aisle Airbus aircraft, which are expected to be delivered by 2029 and will join the fleets of Cathay Pacific and HK Express. And this will bring the group's new aircraft deliveries to up to more than 70. We're also excited to be bringing our customers an all-new business class experience in the second quarter of 2024 as part of the redesign of our long-haul Boeing 777-300ER cabins. And this will be followed by a new world-leading first-class cabin on board our 777-9 aircraft, the first of which is scheduled to join our fleet in 2025. And finally, I wish to share our heartfelt appreciation to all of our people. It's thanks to their tireless support of Cathay during difficult times and to their dedication as we rebuild that we have already started to achieve some early successes. And it's important that we share Cathay's successes with our people. We've already announced a special appreciation reward of up to 6 weeks of eligible pay, which has been well received. And today we are building on that by announcing a new profit-sharing scheme for our people. Whilst there is more still to be done, the progress that we've made on our rebuilding journey is testament to the fantastic work done by everyone at Cathay. We are on the right track, and we remain resolutely committed to the future of Hong Kong as we strive to achieve our vision of becoming one of the world's greatest service brands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we take your questions, kindly note that our CEO, Ronald Lam, will provide a recap of some of the key points in Chinese in his closing remarks towards the end of the press briefing. A hard copy of the Chair's opening remarks in English and the CEO's closing remarks in Chinese can be collected from one of our colleagues after the press briefing, and a soft copy will also be sent to your email. Now, on to your questions. If you would like to ask a question, kindly raise your hand. I'll call on you, and one of our colleagues will bring you a microphone. Please state your name and the media organization you work for. Kindly limit the questions to a maximum of 2 so that we can respond to as many media friends as possible. Now, on to the first questions. I see a hand, so Danny, please.
Hi there, Danny Lee from Bloomberg News. Can you give some color on how the second half will perform? Will it be as strong or better than the first half? And does that explain why it gives you the confidence to pay or redeem half of the preference shares by the end of the year? My second question is whether you can give me some color on recruitment. Net headcount has risen from the end of last year by 500, but Cathay is expecting thousands to be hired. Where does that hiring stand now against target? And do you have any guidance on how many more you need by the end of 2024? Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Danny, for the questions. Let me just talk in general terms about financial performance, then I'll ask Rebecca to talk about the preference share planning and our thinking around those redemptions. We can't give you specific guidance for the second half, Danny, as you're well aware. What I would say is that we've been cash generative for the whole of 2023, and we're extremely pleased with the performance year to date, and we expect to continue to see a solid performance through the rest of the year. And we think that the current performance shows that we're well on the way on our rebuilding journey, and that it's also a testament to the tremendous work done by everyone at Cathay Pacific. Rebecca, do you want to sort of provide some color on our thinking in terms of preference share redemptions?
Yes, sure. Thank you. So you'll see in the results we've announced today, in addition to what Pat has just alluded to, our liquidity balance at the end of June was 28.9 billion. You'll recall, and as we'll talk about in the analyst briefing this afternoon, that's a combination of liquid funds and committed funds. And the liquid funds within that are around $24 billion. So on the back of that and looking forward at our projections, based on the, again, as Pat alluded to, being operating cash generative in the first half, we think now is the time to think about start bringing that liquidity balance down a bit. We carried it elevated through the pandemic because of the uncertainty, so we can start to bring it down a bit and therefore start to repay the money that the government invested in us in the preference shares, for which we're very grateful.
Great, thank you. And on recruitment, obviously the bulk of the recruitment activities are all on the operational side, so I'll ask Alex to take that question.
Yes, thanks, Danny. We're broadly on track with our recruitment plans. Cabin crew are the largest contingent. We've had 5,000 applications so far this year from Hong Kong, and we've had 600 people agree to join us after going through the selection process. We've also been recruiting people in some of our outports in Singapore, in Bangkok. And most excitingly, we have got underway now with our recruitment of cabin crew in the Chinese mainland. And just in the first week or two, we've had 2,000 applications. We're targeting 200 or 300 people from the Chinese mainland this year, and then that will become an ongoing feature of our recruitment. On the pilot front, we're well on track with our cadet recruitment. We've secured around 300 people from the 600 that we are looking for this year. And again, we've opened up recruitment to the Chinese mainland for the first time and already have several hundred applicants. On the ground, we're taking advantage of the importation of labour scheme that the government announced, and we're looking for around 1,000 people from that scheme, which will no doubt help alleviate some of the strains on our resources at Hong Kong International Airport. But we're on track with recruitment, and we're confident of our ability to meet our commitments to capacity, both 70% this year and 100% by the end of next year.
Thank you. Next question.
The lady in brown outfit. Tara from Cable News, and I would like to ask my questions in Cantonese.
First of all, my question is, in terms of dividend payment, so far you have not been paying dividend, and now you have achieved a turnaround into profitability. Do you have dividend payment timetable? Now the border has already been reopened. You said that your target is 70%. So in the second half of the year, when it comes to passenger flow, what do you think? In summer holiday, is there any rise in passenger volume? Is there any room upside?
首先咧喺中期業績啦，我哋好
First of all, for interim results, we're happy to see that our interim results show a strong rebound. However, for Cathay, we are still in the early stage of our rebuilding. So for ordinary shares dividend, we will review our future performance, and we will make further decision based on the circumstances. So far, we don't have a timetable yet. For the second half of the year, well, for summer holiday, booking performance has been very good. No matter whether we're talking about Cathay Pacific or Hong Kong Express, we can see that during summer holiday, bookings are very good. Thank you, Ronald. Kenji?
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Kenji from Nikkei. Two questions. One is on the cargo front. Looking at the numbers, the amount carried it has increased, but the revenue has dropped. And would you please give us some color and also some, your outlook on the cargo front? And this has been supporting the company during this COVID period, but now it seems to be reversing, and the Chinese economy seems to be in the downturn. So would you please give us some color prospect on the cargo front? That's my first question. Should I go on? Okay,
Yes,
okay.
please.
Okay, my second question, is on your recovery plan. There are people saying that because Cathay, well, people don't say that it's your fault, but saying that since Cathay or the flights to Hong Kong has not recovered in full, therefore it's kind of holding back Hong Kong in terms of visitors, hotel operations, retail. How do you make of that? And also, on this front, do you think you'll be able to get enough trained captains, pilots, by the time within your targets? You may be able to get untrained or less experienced pilots, but will you be able to get experienced pilots you really need to run your operation? Thank you.
Sure, great. Thanks, Kanji. I'm going to ask Lavinia to provide some more color on cargo, but maybe let me make a couple of points on cargo from my own perspective first. I think when you talk about the yield effectively for cargo this year being lower than in recent years, it's extremely important to bear in mind that 2022 and 2021 were just incredibly exceptional years in terms of cargo yield. So although the yield has come off from those record performances of the last 2 years, if you compare today's yield with any normal cargo year, 2019 or earlier, we're still in a reasonably strong market. It's a robust market, and performance is good. Hong Kong again was named the busiest cargo airport in the world. Cathay Cargo won the world's best cargo airline in 2022. So, the cargo performance still remains very, very strong. And of course, so much more cargo capacity has come back into the market, both within our fleet and within our competitors' fleets, as a result of passenger capacity returning to normal levels post-pandemic. So I think all of that context is important to understand, when you point to the lower yields that we're seeing today relative to 2022 and 2021. But having made that point, Lavinia, maybe you can sort of provide a bit more color on current performance and.
Sure, Pat. So as Pat has mentioned, the last 2 years were really exceptional for cargo. So I think I would say that this year, I think the overall market has normalized. obviously, demand, you can say that it's not as strong as last year, but actually there's still a lot of cargo out there, especially for us where we are located. We are seeing very strong demand of e-commerce goods coming out from GBA, so we are definitely capturing quite a lot of those. So, and for Cathay Cargo, I think what we are focusing on this year actually is, firstly, as we continue to add back belly capacity, we are also bringing more destinations and choices to our customers, so that is a very strong point. And secondly, we also continue to invest in our expert solution, Cathay Cargo Solutions. Not sure if you have seen our big cargo marketing campaign recently at the Hong Kong station. So we know how is our slogan. So we are investing a lot in specialized Cathay solutions. So carrying cargo like, for example, farmer goods, live animals, fresh produce. So all these are higher yielding cargo and which need a lot of expertise to carry. So we are focusing and investing a lot more in these specialized segments also to extract the best.
Thank you. So your second question about the speed of recovery. Look, it is a fact that Hong Kong and therefore Cathay Pacific began our recovery journey much later, approximately a year later. Obviously, it depends who we compare ourselves to, but around a year later than most of our key regional competitors, right? So, are we behind in terms of the potential recovery? Absolutely, because we started a lot later and we came from a much lower base. It seems hard to imagine now, but this time last year we were reporting first half of 2022, we were still operating at 3% of pre-pandemic capacity, passenger capacity levels, right? So, we've come from an incredibly low base up to the point today where we're approaching 60% of pre-pandemic capacity. That's a very rapid rise. So, we started later, but the trajectory of that recovery, when compared with the trajectory of the recovery from their starting points of our key regional competitors, is absolutely on track in some cases faster. So, are we slow? No, we're building up quickly. Most importantly, we're absolutely committed to continue to build capacity as fast as we can, and that's what we're all focused on at the moment. You specifically asked about captains, training, etc. I think that's another question for Alex.
Yes, thanks, Pat. We certainly do have sufficient pilots and indeed cabin crew and operational staff at all levels to support our flight schedule. We did see an elevated turnover of pilots during the very difficult period of the pandemic, particularly in late 2021 and early 22. That turnover has now been back at normal levels for some time. We've been particularly encouraged by the return of around 250 pilots who left us during the pandemic, including around 70 senior captains, many of whom are training captains. And we're also really fortunate at Cathay to have 2,500 highly capable pilots. Many of them are skilled and experienced senior first officers, and they're now being given the opportunity to go through command courses and become Cathay captains. So we are on track with the recovery and again with the 70% by the end of this year and returning to 100% next year.
Thanks, Alex. And I maybe just wrap up the response to your question, Kanji, by saying that we remain completely confident in the future of Hong Kong and the role that Cathay Pacific has to play right at the center of the aviation hub, and the role that the Hong Kong International Aviation Hub plays as set out by the 14th five-year plan, demonstrate the commitment of everyone to the future of Hong Kong. We remain very optimistic about the future.
Okay. Thank you. 黑白間條位女士，唔該。
The lady in stripes, please.
From Nikkei, I have two questions for you. First one, I noticed that the passenger revenue per ASK remained quite high at 67.5 cents Hong Kong D. So I would like to ask, how long do you think this is going to stay, and what could be done to improve the price and to go back to the regular level like before, around like 40 something? And the second question will be, since the mainland airlines are also trying to recover, so can you share us more colors in terms of the competitions among those airlines to try to get more mainland passengers? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Look, I'll ask Lavinia, I think, to address both of those questions in some more detail. Maybe just one point on, on the overall revenue. I mean, obviously, revenues per ASK at the moment are at very elevated levels compared to any sort of historical comparison. But I think it's very important that everyone understands this is not a Cathay Pacific phenomenon. It's not a Hong Kong phenomenon, right? This really is true for global aviation. Wherever you look across markets around the world in this post-pandemic period, those yields are at very elevated levels. So it's important to recognize that although, the figures and the trends you point out are absolutely true, and it's very important, that this is representative of underlying trends within the entire aviation on a global basis. But having said that, Lavinia, maybe give your perspective on ASK revenue and also competition.
Okay. Yes. Thanks, Pat. Yeah, so as Pat has alluded to, when you look at the high airfare phenomenon, it's actually a global phenomenon, not restricted to Hong Kong, and definitely not restricted to Cathay Pacific. So when we look at it, I believe there are two major drivers behind this phenomenon right now. Firstly, globally, post-pandemic, the aviation industry has been facing a lot of challenges. In particular, supply chain. So the entire supply chain, we are seeing people shortages, materials shortages, and that coupled with the inflationary factors around the world, that has added to a lot of the cost pressure on all airlines operating. So these cost pressures will be reflected partially in ticket prices, and that's the same for all airlines, not just Cathay Pacific. So this is a worldwide phenomenon. Secondly, and there's also the demand-supply issue. So post-pandemic and when the borders reopen, we do see very strong demand, and demand is currently still, in a way, outpacing supply. So on that front, what we will do, and we will continue to do, is to make sure that we added more capacity as soon as possible. So, and as we have committed, we will be targeting by end of this year, 70%, and by end of next year, 100%. So with that supply getting more in line with demand, we expect that there will be more normalization of the fares. But I think obviously we still have to keep the first factor, which is the global cost pressures in mind. So that's on fares. And then in terms of competition, yes, of course, as we continue to bring back capacity into Hong Kong, we notice obviously other carriers will be doing the same. So for us, I think it's important that we focus on our own targets, again, in terms of capacity, bring back our capacity, bring back our network as much as possible, and we also continue to invest in our customer experience. So I think that's very important. And obviously, in terms of fares, we'll continue to make sure that we have competitive fares in the market.
Okay, thank you. Luke Mgale.
I'm Luke from Economic Daily. I would like to speak in Chinese. Just now, some other reporters talked about the Chinese economy. And recently, based on Chinese economic data, comparing with the first half and earlier, the data are weaker. So will that affect Cathay's passenger and cargo business trajectory and load factor? Besides, regarding purchase of new aircrafts, you announced that you will exercise your right to purchase 32 A300 321. So I would like to know, will delivery start in 2029 or before 2029 you will take delivery of all? When will the first aircraft be delivered? And there are reports saying that you will consider short-term leasing to increase capacity. So is that within your scope of consideration? How many aircraft are still parked outside right now? Thank you. Thank you, Luke. Ronald. First of all, for mainland China, including Greater Bay Area markets, they are very, very important to Cathay's future development. And they are markets that we attach much importance to. You just talked about mainland China economic data. We have paid attention to those data. At this moment, for direct flights from mainland to international, especially long-haul flights, their recovery is still slower than Hong Kong. So now you can see that many passengers fly via Hong Kong in and out of China, and the demand is higher than normal. So as a result, demand for our flights is being positively affected. In the second half of the year, this will continue. So we are not very worried about this. As regards the new aircraft, before 2029 or by 2029, delivery will happen. So delivery will not only start in 2029. For these 32 aircraft, we directly buy from Airbus. And so far, for narrow-bodied aircraft, we have not considered other way of leasing. And then concerning the parking of aircraft at the end of June for Cathay Group, altogether 225 aircraft, and only 25 are still parked in Australia. And 18 of them at the end of this year will come back to Hong Kong. So in Q1, Q2 next year, I think this issue of parking of aircraft will become part of history. Thank you, Ronald. Tony?
Singtao Daily. I have two questions. My first question is the capital reduction proposals. After it has approved, will Cathay Pacific still have to pay dividends to the government in the next year? And does this plan require government approval? And what is the impact of your financial costs and the dividend policy? And my second question is the Cathay Pacific has announced the bonus to employee, and when they come across the past few years, and how many employees are involved in this bonus plan? And I just hear about that today you have announced the employee profit scheme, and can you give us some more details? Thank you.
Sure, thanks very much, Tony. Yeah, the first part of the question is basically around preference share redemptions and the impact. Rebecca, that's one for you, I think.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So yes, today we've announced that we plan to do a capital reduction of 19.5 billion Hong Kong dollars. That will require approval from shareholders at an extraordinary general meeting, the date of which we'll announce in due course. Through doing that capital reduction, once that's complete, we can then start repaying the preference shares. Until we, and as we said in our announcement, we do intend to repay 50% of the preference shares by the end of this year. Until we repay preference shares, yes, dividends continue to accrue. So the next dividends will be due on the 12th of August and paid on the 14th of August. And until we've repaid all the preference shares, dividends will accrue on those dividends. In terms of the process, sort of the remaining preference shares, that will continue through until 2024. We hope to be able to redeem them all in full by the end of July 2024.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yep, I mean, on the people side of things, you know, as I said, it's extremely important that we share the successes that we're starting to see as we rebuild Cathay. And Ronald, I think you'll take the specifics of the question on the special award scheme and the profit share.
頭先嗰位記者係星島。
So that reporter comes from Singtao, right? So perhaps I can answer you in Cantonese. First of all, for Cathay Group employees, we are very united, and we have actually ridden over the most difficult 3 years. And I sincerely thank all our colleagues for their contribution in the past 3 years. The rebuilding process has borne good initial results. Most colleagues are seen to be happy. Sometime earlier, we announced a special reward for those who worked with us together during the pandemic. And the maximum is 6 weeks' pay. During the pandemic, for those colleagues who stayed in our group, they are all included, including our subsidiaries as well. And today, internally, we announced further. That is how we are going to work with our employees this year and in the coming 2 years, how we are going to share our results and achievements with them. This is a new profit-sharing plan. Details of this plan will be announced to our staff in due course, but in our internal communications, I gave a simple example so that our colleagues know basically what will be the achievements in the plan. Well, this plan depends on the results of the second half of the year because we have to look at the whole 2023 results to determine how much bonus we can distribute. But let's take the example of the second half of 2022 and first half of this year. If we take this full year's results as an example, then under the profit-sharing plan, we can share with our employees roughly 4 weeks of their pay. So details will be approved later. Now, we are very encouraged that eventually we have actually overcome the past 3 years, and now we can share our results and achievements with our colleagues. So we are highly encouraged of that. For the 6 weeks special pay, well, colleagues are very happy about that. Many colleagues said personally to me that they are so happy to see that the company has overcome the most difficult time. And now we're able to see some initial results. Thank you. Thank you, Ronald. Laura?
Hi, good afternoon. Laura Westbrook from the South China Morning Post. I wanted to ask if there are any challenges or headwinds ahead as you rebuild for the rest of the year and next year. Is it, for example, higher inflation impacting demand? And then second question, do you see Cathay reaching 100% of pre-pandemic passenger capacity before the end of 2024? Thank you.
Yeah, Ronald, I think I'll ask you to take those. Thanks, Laura.
Sure. We are highly aware of the potential risk and issues as we build. And indeed, we are facing a number of challenges as we build. The main challenges is faced by actually the whole aviation industry worldwide about manpower shortage as well as supply chain issue. And these won't go away shortly, but we believe as we go into 2024, things are going to improve and normalize. And we would do our best to navigate these rebuild issues. But I must say, compared to the challenges we faced in the last 3 years during the pandemic, all these are, I would so-called happy problems, right? At least I think we get to fly and we get to rebuild, and we will face up to this challenge with the usual can-do spirit that we have within the Cathay Group. Regarding 2024, we build progress. First of all, I think we are still very focused on reaching 70% by end of this year. This is really our current focus. But at the same time, we have already started to make plans about 2024. And as mentioned before, on the travel side, between Cathay Pacific and HK Express, our goal is to reach back 100% of pre-pandemic passenger flight level by end of next year. So at the moment, we are still working on the planning, but this remains our goal, and we are fully committed to do that because that will be important in the rebuild of the Hong Kong International Aviation Hub, which we play a large role. And by the end of next year, the 3-runway system will be operational, and we really want to get back to our full capacity before we go into the 3-runway system.
Thank you. Perhaps last question from the floor. 863位小姐.
The lady in white, please. I'm Scarlett from Phoenix TV. I will ask question in Cantonese. Now, Cathay is going to introduce the new business class cabin, and for your remaining flights, this updating will be done. So, do you think, or how much cost will you invest in doing this? You are upgrading your business class cabin at this point in time. Next year, after the second quarter, after it is launched, what will be some positive impact and help? Thank you.
多謝你嘅問題啊。
Thank you for your question. Let me take the question. First of all, thank you for being aware of our new business class cabin. And actually, a video was already launched talking about this new business class product. During the pandemic, we have not stopped improving and enhancing customer experience on our part. So for this new business class or enhanced business class, well, it is the product of many colleagues' efforts. Next year, we hope that in Q2, it will be in our Boeing 777-300ER long-haul flights. For the time being, how should I say? Well, we'd like to only give you a little bit of hint, and in coming months, we will announce more details about this new business class and also our ideas behind the design concept. So at this point in time, I would only give you a little bit of a glance of our idea, of our design, so that you know that we have been doing a lot and we genuinely want to enhance customer experience. Thank you.
A couple of questions online, but they're mostly related to aircraft, so maybe I'll combine and we can address it in one go. So the question is around, could you tell us what are the further needs you're looking to address with aircraft orders being considered? Also, can you give us an update on the progress of returning parked aircraft to service? And on exercising the 32 purchase options, is there a decided split between the A320neo and A321neo as yet? And when is the first of those additional aircraft likely to be delivered? Thank you.
Sure, thanks. Alex, I think, could you cover the fleet questions?
Yes, certainly. We have a number of aircraft already in the delivery pipeline, new A321neos. That was an order that we placed back in 2017. And so far as a group, we've taken delivery of 13 of those with 19 more to come. Those will be delivered through to 2025, mid-2025. Thereafter, up until the end of 2029, we will take delivery of the new order of 32 Airbus A321 and A320neos. We have some flexibility as to the split between Hong Kong Express and Cathay Pacific, and we'll be exercising that discretion in due course. We don't have specific numbers to share at this stage. In terms of returning aircraft from long-term storage outside Hong Kong, at the end of June, we had 25 aircraft in storage. In Australia, that's now down to 24. As Ronald said earlier, 18 of those will be returned to Hong Kong and put back into service before the end of this year. And then the remaining 4 out of 5 will come back into service in 2024. One of those aircraft won't come back into service.
Okay, thank you. And the final question from our online audience. Can you tell us more about the business contribution or the business from the Chinese mainland? And how are you managing the Chinese economy, as the latest reporting numbers are not as bright? And how does it affect Cathay Pacific? Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Lavinia, why don't you just talk about general contribution from the mainland, and then we'll I'll add a few comments on the overall situation.
Sure, Pat. So I think, as Ronald has also mentioned, the Chinese mainland market is a very important market to us, and right now, because especially when the direct capacity between Chinese mainland and other, especially the long-haul countries, have not fully resumed, so we are definitely carrying a lot of passengers via Hong Kong. So the contribution from Chinese mainland is continuing to be at a very healthy level. And also, as we continue to invest more in the GBA area, we also start to see a lot of some of the returns from that. And given the GBA market is very close to us and our continued investment, so we can foresee that GBA as part of Chinese mainland, the whole market will continue to be a very important part of our revenue contributions in future.
Thanks. Actually, that covered pretty much everything I was going to add, so thanks, Lavinia.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so well, thank you to all our speakers, and thank you for all your questions. I would like to now invite our CEO to summarize the vital key points in Chinese before we end the briefing. So, Ronald, please.
Friends from the media, good afternoon. Thank you for taking time to attend today's media briefing. This year, the Cathay team has been working hard in a united way to rebuild for Hong Kong a better Cathay Pacific than ever before. Despite the many challenges we have faced, we have made exciting progress overall speaking. The Cathay Pacific Group, during the pandemic, experienced very big challenges. And in terms of our business performance in the first half, we showed a strong rebound. This reflected the continuing improvement in the operating environment and the growing strength of our business. In the first half of 2023, our group reported an attributable profit of 4.3 billion Hong Kong dollars. As of June 30th, 2023, our liquidity balance was 28.9 billion. As for the other results data, the chairman has already summarized them, and the details are already published in a relevant announcement, so I will not repeat them here. Regarding our good interim results, well, once again, I would like to thank the Hong Kong SAR government and our shareholders for their support since the pandemic, and in particular for their support to our group's recapitalization plan in 2020. Following the recent payment of all accumulated preference share dividends, today we are pleased to announce our group's plan to buy back 50% of the preference shares by the end of 2023, involving 9.75 billion Hong Kong dollars. And by the end of July 2024, the remaining 50% of the preference shares will also be bought back. The National 14th Five-Year Plan states that Hong Kong's international aviation hub role will play an important role in national development, and it will also support the development of Hong Kong's 7 other major centers. Cathay Pacific is committed to taking on this important role. We'll continue to strengthen the connection between Hong Kong, the Greater Bay Area, and mainland China and the rest of the world, and to promote Hong Kong's all-round development. The group's Cathay Pacific Airways and Hong Kong Express are now operating at very close to 60% of the pre-pandemic passenger flight capacity, and will be operating at 70% of the pre-pandemic passenger flight capacity by the end of 2023, covering 80 destinations. We are confident to return to 100% capacity by the end of 2024. Besides, I am very grateful to our customers for their support and understanding over the past many years. We are honored to have returned to the top 10 of the world's best airlines in prestigious industry rankings. However, we are also fully aware of the challenges facing the global aviation industry as it recovers from the pandemic, which have temporarily affected our ability to provide the best possible service to our customers. We are committed to investing more resources to continuously improve and enhance customer experience. Earlier today, we announced our plan to order up to 32 additional Airbus A321neo and A320neo aircraft. The new aircraft will be delivered to Cathay Pacific and Hong Kong Express by the end of 2029, which means that the group will take delivery of up to 70 new aircraft in the coming years. At the same time, we will be redesigning the cabin of our ultra-long-haul Boeing 777-300ER fleet to provide customers with the best possible service from 2024 in relation to business class cabin. We will also take delivery for 7779 flights in order to introduce a brand new world-leading first-class cabin. I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to our colleagues in Cathay Pacific Group for their steadfastness in the most difficult time and their contribution to the rebuilding process, so that we have achieved very good initial results. We are very pleased with the efforts of our colleagues, and during the rebuilding process, we hope that our colleagues can share the fruits of our efforts with us. Some time ago, we already announced a special reward of up to 6 weeks of qualified pay. We are pleased to see positive response from our colleagues, and this has given a boost to our morale. Today, we will announce to our colleagues a profit-sharing plan that will be applicable for the years 2023 to 25. In 2023, the amount that we can pay out to colleagues will depend on our business performance in the second half of this year. However, if I use an example to illustrate, let's say if we look at the second half of 2022 and the first half of 2023 business results as the basis for calculation, then under the new scheme, each colleague will receive about 4 weeks additional eligible pay or income. We continue to move forward with the rebuilding of Cathay Pacific, and the progress so far has been encouraging, and this is a testament to the hard work of our colleagues and our customers' support. We are already on the positive track of rebuilding, and will continue to build Hong Kong so that we will be one of the best service brands in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Speakers. This concludes our press briefing. If you have further questions, please email them to press@cathaypacific.com. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good day. Thank you.